Hi everyone. So I want to talk about democracy and me growing up in the 90s. It was something we really looked forward to, especially for the Soviet Union or Russia. It was something that we saw. Democracy is the one thing that all nations should have because it opens up free markets and it's very fair, even though people say it's unfair and that's communist and socialist who don't agree with democracy. But it's free market economy, it's equity is very. It's from John Locke. He is the father of capitalism. So we come from our indigenous cultures revolved around trading a lot, trading goods for other goods, or goods for services maybe. So we understand the principles of democracy, which is very beneficial to everyone. So it is what was expected for even for communist countries, maybe Vietnam, which was also the war in Vietnam in the 70s. A lot of countries, China has communism. So it's what was expected for Asian countries and for countries coming out of socialism or communism, like is the example of Russia. But sadly, many leaders turned to their pedestal, and that's the error of seeing yourself in a pedestal and better than everyone else. When you are a leader, you are serving people. You're not serving yourself. You're serving people. So the economy started declining. Democracies started doing a poor job. Many leaders didn't live up to their expectations of or the expectations of the people. It comes from Athenian democracy, which is the Greeks who first introduced democracy, and we've lived with it for such a long time. And the U.S. has done such an incredible job in democracy. They are always on top in democracy. And right now, European countries, Northern European countries, are doing very well with democracy. So it was a pity to see it decline so much and so many countries not benefit from it. So many things that were expected didn't come true because of the leaders that we elected, or the leaders gave an image that we thought was the correct one. Oh, that would lead to progress and well being for everyone. But it just didn't happen. So we had to tight our budgets very much. We had to live differently. So we had to adapt to many new things that were promised. That we had to adapt to many new things because a lot of things were promised that didn't come true. So democracy is the well-being of all people, and if you see people who live in democracy, they are relaxed. They are okay. They're just relaxed. And people who live in socialist and communist countries, they have a hard time making a living. Everything is owned by the government. That means you're not allowed to have your own business, your own job. It means you are your wage is also, it's all the government's. So nothing, you're not really entitled to be a citizen, and that is a sad thing because we are free people. So when you are a free person, you can do as much as you want when you want, as long as you follow the law, and that's it. In communist countries, you have to go. The government has to give you approval of everything. If you want to put a business, the government has to see. If they want a percentage, they will take a percentage. So that is the sad part about socialist and communist countries. And it also the living, there is no cost of living. There's a lot of things that aren't measured there. So one of the things that democracy does is it looks out for the well-being of all people. So we pay our taxes, so we have services. We have a good, efficient bus service that trash cans around your city and how the trash is picked up is clean, that your city is clean. So a lot of the taxes that we pay are for the city, for the country. So if you look around your own city, it's not well taken care of. So it's everything is deficient. Buildings that are a heritage to our country aren't well taken care of. So what's happened with all these taxes that we've been paying all along? So you see it in the outcome of all our taxes. You have to see it in your area, in your country, in your city. So it's been very deficient. There's been a lot of fraud. There's been a lot of corruption. There are many people who enter to work in the government, and they only see to get agreements and get their percentage of money and take it from agreements or a lot of the plans and agreements and paperwork. So they see where they can get their cut, and they take that cut. They also steal from the taxes. So it's a big deal. And if you look around, we have to admit that, and it's all over the world. So that is my question about democracy and how well it has been played out, not played out, but how well it has been walked. There are nations like the US who have walked in democracy for a long time, so they have a good exercise in democracy. Democracy is an exercise that we all do because that is the point of democracy. So if you look at nations like the US, they have a good exercise in democracy. Countries who've had a good exercise in democracy are the ones who've had great leaders. And like Abraham Lincoln, they killed Abraham Lincoln. They killed John F. Kennedy. They killed Martin Luther King. So that exercise in democracy was cut short. So it's for to us citizens to make that exercise work, because leaders, we look at leaders and we follow them. We do what they do. They leave an example, and that is the exercise of democracy. You can look up democracy on your Google search and find out more about it, and it's what we've always looked up to. We also had a president here in Ecuador who was killed. That was Roldos. We had socialism, and then democracy came back. We had democracy, then we had socialism, then we had democracy, and they killed him. And he had an airplane accident. So we were left short with that exercise, and we as citizens had to fill in all that exercise. So we've had poor leaders, so we have a poor exercise in democracy. So we need to catch up with that, and it's a real pity, because if we develop as citizens, and we evolve. So democracy is a key aspect to any free society. So if if that's not working, then something is wrong, and we really need to lift up our voices for that. And I know little of government. I don't know how it works. I think it's a ideology that revolves around Muslim government, which is very sad, because if it's an ideology for a political party or government, it's not such a good idea. But they fought so much against democracy, and when you see the U.S. was 20 years in Afghanistan, and if you look at, I saw a documentary of the life there now. See, the people are much more open to market. Like they have a better way of living. That's what I mean to say. Their quality of life, and that's, I mean, quality, well-being, it evolves, is better, and they are more open to to people in general. It's not so closed as Muslim religion has always been. So democracy is always it pushes for progress. So it's important that we understand that. So I want to leave you with that, because it's in democracy still the most important thing for any free society, for any country around the world. Democracy is what keeps everything stable and moving. And I know many people, especially like communism and socialism, say that the poor need. What about the poor? So the poor need to eat. So the poor, and so the thing is, poor people will always be among us, and we can always donate. We can always give. We can always give. So if you look at socialist countries, the government, they promise they will give them a good quality of life. But in Cuba, they give them like potatoes, and they give them, they only have one food a meal. Yeah, everybody eats, but they only eat potatoes, and they give it to them in grams, and it's just, it doesn't work that way. And the people who are in the government, they live well. They have food all day. They have a shower. They have a car. They have everything. And the people, the population, they live. They have to find a way to live. And many women have turned to prostitution because that's the only way they get dollars and euros, because their coin is nothing. And they live in old houses with no light, with no water, with just a gram of potatoes. And that's the reality of the Cuban government. So if you have the opportunity to look at documentaries of socialist and communist countries, you should look at, because if you're speaking, speak with what you know, not with what ideas you have. Speak seeing first, and then make a judgment out of what's really happening. So democracy gives the middle, the lower, the middle, the higher, the class. It doesn't matter. It just gives them all the opportunity to have a job, to have social security, to have, when you're old, to have your pension. It gives everybody the opportunity. If I can put a job, if I can have a business and I can hire 3 or 4 people, like Starbucks, which is a big company and gives a job to millions of people, or like any capitalist business. I mean, it's just the way it works. People need to work for a living. Nothing is for free. And the problem when people are left with when people are left with nothing to do, they just become idle, and they sit there and they expect things from the government. They don't know how to work, they don't know how to make a living, they don't know how to live, and they don't they give them education. And what is it gonna work for if you can't do anything in your life and you are being observed by the government all the time, and if you're against the government they can kill you. So what freedom is there in socialist and communist countries? So I want to leave you with that and think about that, and how just democracy has declined in the last 30 years. We expected more. We from the 90s expected more, and sadly it just didn't happen. So see you. Bye.